A very royal good morning to you all. This week, we're going to be speaking about the British royal family with Prince Andrew and his continued ties to Epstein and the leaks from the Epstein files in the US. The pressure continues to mount on him to leave Royal Lodge and not only stop using his titles, but be stripped of them. So we have a lot to unpack with Andrew. So let's go ahead and get started. So it has been revealed by Parliament that Andrew at his 30-bedroom Royal Lodge paid an upfront amount and had it restored at the time. Since then, he has not paid any rent. This obviously does not sit well with the British people. The taxpayers, with everything that's gone on with the Epstein and revelations, with his questionable finances, the fact that Fergie, his ex-wife, still lives with him in Royal Lodge, it does not sit well with a lot of people, understandably. So there have been calls for him to vacate, and it's the understanding that Buckingham Palace has been gently trying to push him out, for him to do the dignified thing and leave on his own, but it seems like Andrew is digging his heels in. He's not going to go. And so Parliament is now getting involved. Parliament does have the power to strip him of his prince title. They have the power to remove him from Royal Lodge. I'm sure that they would all like to avoid going to that length, but it does not seem that Andrew is willing to go. And it's just going to continue until he's gone, and William wants him out. William does not want him anywhere near the family. William and Kate have also moved into a home just down the road from Andrew, and that sits very unwell with them. They don't want them or their children to be anywhere near Andrew or the negative publicity that continues to surround him. The issue with the king, with getting him out of Royal Lodge, was that he has an ironclad lease. It's called a peppercorn lease. And so the king really doesn't have any power at the moment to force him to leave. He can only push Andrew to do the right thing and vacate. And so that's where Parliament steps in. Parliament has the authority to remove his titles, remove him from Royal Lodge, or they have the ability to pass a law where the monarch has the power to essentially, when a royal is acting up, the monarch can actually do something to get them out. They can't, at the moment, really do much other than take away the glorified titles that they are bestowed, but a monarch cannot take away the birthright title of prince. And so with the slow leaks from the US, there are definitely more things to come. We will see more emails. With Virginia and Geoffrey's book, there's a lot of things that obviously the people believe. It's not a he said, she said at this point. I think the majority of people believe that Andrew was involved in nefarious things and that he should do the right thing and go. When he gave up his titles this past week, it was a mixed bag because he didn't relinquish them. He just said he would not use them anymore. And that doesn't sit well with people. They want him gone. They want the titles actually stripped away. And so the pressure is mounting, and I'm sure that the king and William are really, just besides themselves with what to do, because they've known about this problem, but there's actually been little that they can do other than speak to Andrew and hope that he will leave or relinquish things. And Andrew is a character. He's very strong-willed. He's very adamant that it is his birthright to be a prince, and he's going to go kicking and screaming. Essentially, he's not going to willingly give up anything that is part of his royal life. He enjoys that life and he does not want to give it up. But the public tide has turned against them, and I think it's time for him and Fergie to find a quaint little cottage in the countryside and just go. It's just the right thing to do. And with the continued drama surrounding Andrew, it's only going to hurt the monarchy more and more. Really, there hasn't been a constitutional crisis like this since 1936, when Edward VIII abdicated. He did not abdicate willingly per se. Parliament forced him out because he was marrying an American divorcee, Wallis Simpson. And there were already whispers of her ties to Germany. Obviously, with the loom of World War II, that was a non-starter. Could not have them as king and queen. With the death of Princess Diana, that some would say was a constitutional crisis. I would not put that on the same level as what is going on now. I think it's more comparable to the abdication. And it's really setting a tone for how is the monarchy going to move forward? How is the monarchy going to change? And people are calling, at this point, for the abolition of the monarchy. And so it's a tricky spot. Andrew has unfortunately put a lot of pressure on the crown. He has damaged it. And, these things have been building. We've known for many years that, Andrew was a sticky one. But now it's all come to a head. And so time will tell if Parliament gets involved, or if Andrew unwillingly steps away, if things will settle down, or if it will set a new tone for the monarchy going forward of they really have to be on their toes, and they have to do the right thing, and they have to be upfront with things that are going on, including finances, because now it has opened Pandora's box of, well, if Andrew has all these, not particularly welcoming news about his finances and how he makes his money and how much rent he pays, which is basically nothing. What is going on with the other finances, with the other royals? They're not very opaque. There have been calls in the past for that, and they have, for the most part, shut it down. They are upfront about some things, but not everything. And so there are more calls for them to be more transparent about finances, about how much is being spent, about who gets what. I think that is going to be part of William's reign, is that he will make those things transparent, and he will cut costs, and he will really slim things down. But at the moment, it looks very shaky, even for him, by the time he gets to that point. So only time will tell what's going to happen. Now, King Charles, as we all know, has been battling cancer, along with the Princess of Wales. It's my understanding that the king is soldiering on, but he is very tired. He's very exhausted by everything that's gone on, and his spirit is diminished to the point that William is really having to step up and be the voice of, no, he needs to go. This needs to change. We have to do this. And so there is a bit of tension between the king and the heir to the throne. And, William has already made apparent in his interview with Eugene Levy that big changes are coming. And people say, what is that going to look like? Well, a lot of the other European royals have already made pretty big changes years ago. And so the British royal family is a bit behind in the times in that respect. Now, some people say it's tradition, which I understand, but at the same time, I think to move forward and with transparency and, you know, bang for the buck, William has to make these changes. It's going to be necessary if the monarchy is going to continue into the future. I don't think it can continue how it currently stands. It has to be reinvigorated, changes made, and more transparency to the people. Now, Harry kind of acted like his father was on borrowed time when he made that statement that he was going to be spending more time with him over the next year. We don't know. We simply do not know the state of his ailment. We don't know, if he's been given a timeline. We just don't know. He could live to be 100. He could live to be 90. We just don't know. And I think it's unfair to speculate, that time frame. But at the same time, I understand that the monarchy, there are things set in place for that eventuality. And so people are speaking about it. And you see that William is taking steps to solidify his reign. And so Charles, a lot of the things that he is doing, are being overshadowed. He is doing great things, actually, with his reign. He is a good king, and he means well, but with Andrew, with Harry and Meghan, it's just being largely overshadowed. And so, I feel for him. I think he's having a really rough time going through cancer, going through treatment, and then having just to deal with all this nonsense. It's unfortunate. Some would say that he hasn't gone in far enough. He hasn't dropped the hammer hard enough on his brother, on Harry and Meghan. I don't disagree, but I also understand that, it's family and it's a tough position to be in, and no one likes to be in that position. So it's tough, and I understand. Again, with William having to support his father with his cancer, having to support the Princess of Wales with her cancer, having 3 children, being heir to the throne, also having to deal with the constant and revelations by Harry. I imagine he is under an incredible amount of stress. I cannot even imagine, just waking up to another story if I were William. I'm sure he is just fuming. And I think that was a point in his interview where he tried to explain that, changes are coming, hold tight, I'm going to fix things. But in the meantime, it is a mess. Charles inherited a mess from the Queen. God bless the Queen. I love her. But it was a quiet, swept under the rug mess. And now it's out in the open that Charles is having to deal with. And William will undoubtedly have to deal with this mess as well. I don't think it will be cleaned up by the time that William comes to the throne. He will still have a lot to do, which is unfortunate because, he's got to hit the ground running, essentially, and make some very hard decisions for the monarchy. Now, Harry and Meghan, they are Harry and Meghan. They seem to be a bit lost. Harry has been dropped from several charities over bullying and mismanagement. It's not a good look. Charities were one thing that Harry was still very attached to, something that he cares deeply about, and to have these revelations is just not good news for him. It's not good news for his image. With Meghan, her Netflix series did not do well. It did not chart well. Her As Ever brand is not selling out like she would hoped. It's struggling. Some people, when they place orders, They simply don't have it in stock. And so the insiders are saying that money is there, but it's getting tighter. Based on the lifestyle that they live, it's not going to sustain that life that they are living. And so you see Meghan trying to reinvent herself. She recently went to the Balenciaga fashion show, which did not go over well. If you know anything about Balenciaga, they had that ad campaign a few years back with children in very unfortunate circumstances. You can go Google it. I'm not going to say the words here on YouTube. And she supposedly was unaware, which you should do your homework. If you're going to get in bed with a certain brand or entity, then you need to do your homework and know what they stand for and know about controversies that they've had in the past. I don't think that was a good look. I don't think that will help her out. I think, again, it's just there continues to be miscalculations either with her or with their team or with PR. It's just not hitting the mark, and just people aren't going for it. And in addition, she posted a short video of her in a van that night going through the streets of Paris with the lights, her feet up, just having a good time. Unfortunately, she was near Princess Diana's crash site. She wasn't at it, but she was near it. And so people found it to be in very bad taste. They just didn't think it was appropriate, at night, in a vehicle, not a good look. It brings back a lot of memories. And I remember back when it happened, and it does bring back memories. It makes you think about it. So I think that was another just miscalculation of not realizing how much is scrutinized and how much people are paying attention to all the little things. Her PR team, they're trying. I don't know how much good is going to come of it at this point. They have dug a hole for themselves, and it just seems like they can't climb out of it. After the fact, they then tended, I would call it an award show. It's a charity awards, but there's discussion about you may be able to buy that award, get your foot in the door. Wasn't necessarily earned. That's alleged, but they looked awkward. They didn't look happy. Harry especially looked irritated throughout the entire event, and their body language was telling that something is going on, not all is well. And so you just wonder, where do Harry and Meghan, where do they go from here? It's reported that she's now trying to get into the beauty industry, into fashion, again, trying to reinvent herself. I wouldn't call Meghan Markle a fashionista, but can she afford very expensive name brand clothes? Absolutely. I don't think that makes you a fashionista, but she's trying it. And with the makeup and beauty, realm that she's trying to get into, it's severely saturated. Everyone has a cosmetics line. And so, again, I just think it's another thing where they're going to miss the mark. Time will tell, but I don't think that's going to work out like she thinks it's going to. I'm not even sure they know who their followers are, who their fans are, who they are marketing to. I don't even think they know. And so I think that's why it's just kind of all over the place with trying this and trying that, and you just don't know what they're doing. And I don't think they really know what they're doing. They are just trying to keep afloat, I think, at this point. Harry has reportedly been trying to get his foot back in the door with his father. He's had a meeting, which immediately after he torched, because he went and spoke about it, and it was known that the king had said, if you want to move forward with peace talks and try to put some of the past behind us, then this needs to be private. And Harry turned around and he talked about it. And so the king, my understanding, is said, well, back to square one, where we started. If Harry cannot keep it private and not run off and immediately give an interview, it's not going to work. He is not going to be let back in with open arms. And the understanding is that William does not want him back. William has zero interest in peace talks. He has zero interest in making amends, because he feels like Harry has wronged the family so much that there will never be a fix to how things were. It will always be tainted in a way. It will always be a mark on the family of what they went through with Harry's tell-all interviews and the book. And William thinks it's best that he just does his own thing in California. They keep quiet, let the monarchy do its thing, let William do his thing. But at this point, Harry and coming back for him is going to be a non-starter. It's just not in the cards. It's a trying time this week for the British monarchy. With everything going on, you wonder, where does it end? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And I can see a light at the end of the tunnel with Andrew. I think if he is told, hey, Parliament is getting involved and they are going to strip you of your titles, they're going to force you out of Royal Lodge. Andrew, most likely in the end, I think would probably leave before that happens. If not, I see Parliament going through with it, because a lot of people are actually now starting to speak about it and say that it is an option. But with Harry and Meghan, that saga just continues. And so even if Andrew gets dealt with and the balance kind of goes back, you will still have the drama from Harry and Meghan. And unfortunately, I think that's something that William is going to have to deal with throughout his reign. I don't know what's going on there. I am not sure what Harry is thinking. A lot of people question what he is thinking. What is his goal? What are his long-term plans for life? How is that going to look? And it's just a busy and, I would say, traumatic week for the monarchy. We are just going to have to see what happens. I don't think it is going to cause the monarchy to come crashing down, but I definitely think that big changes are now on the way. And, it's a non-starter because of everything that's happened. People want change. They want transparency. They want accountability. And so, I see this going on for a few more weeks. I don't see this resolving in days, but only time will tell. So come back next week. We'll see what's happened by then. I'm sure it's going to get worse before it gets better. But thank you for tuning in and have a good weekend.